Welcome to another episode of Attitude, where my guests and I explore topics that affect your everyday life with the premise that attitude is a major influence on the outcome. I'm your host, Mary Arnott. On this show, I will be talking with a local Hopkinton wife and husband about what is referred to as the empty nest. Now, if you're thinking it won't be difficult to handle your children being grown and waiting and leaving their home, I encourage you, let's start again. I screwed up. See what happens? Just a little. I get nervous.
It's okay.
And they're wanting to leave home. I keep saying waiting. I can't see that, but.
I can't wait to leave home?
Yeah.
Is that what you want to say?
Yeah, I have to be careful here. I get my own feelings too much in this.
And here we go. We're going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to another episode of Attitude, where my guests and I explore topics that affect your everyday life with the premise that attitude is a major influence on the outcome. I'm your host, Mary Arnott. On this show, I will be talking with a local Hopkinton wife and husband about what is referred to as the empty nest. Now, if you're thinking it won't be difficult to handle your children being grown and they're wanting to leave home, I encourage you to watch this show to see if your opinion changes. This is also a good show for teenagers and adult children to watch if they need some understanding about why the empty nest can be difficult for parents. Some unexpected situations may occur, and feelings can catch parents and children by surprise. Will it be a time of adventure or crisis for you and your children? No matter the reason your children may leave, college, military service, marriage, or a new job, one thing you can count on is that it will be a time of change for you and them. By talking about this, my hope is that you will explore your feelings and get prepared for an empty nest before your children reach that time in their lives when they want to be on their own. If you have children that have left already, our discussion may help you come to terms with your feelings and what you can do for yourself. My guests, Sally and Bob Snyder, have graciously offered to discuss with me life changes and how parents may feel when their children leave home. Hi, Sally. Hi, Bob. Thank you for being my guest today.
Nice to be here.
I'll share with you an experience I had of the empty nest when my son left to go off to college. It was really a bittersweet time for me. I was very happy he got into the school that he wanted to go to. But I found myself really missing him. And even though I was enjoying, helping him get ready, for all the things he would need to take off to school and stuff, when he left, I missed him more than I really thought I would. And it caught me off guard in strange ways, little ways that I wasn't prepared for. I'd get up in the morning and want to get ready for work, and I'd miss having, to wake him up to make sure he was getting ready for school, that kind of thing. Or I'd be off in the grocery store and I'd start getting a little teary-eyed, because I wasn't buying his favorite foods anymore because he wasn't home to eat them. So, but anyways, before you start sharing your experiences with us, could you tell us a little bit about your family? I know I've seen some wonderful pictures of your children. How many children do you have?
We have 4 children. They 10 years spread in their ages. The first 3 are 2 years apart. So for a number of years it was pretty chaotic in our house with 3 little ones. And then Jill came along a little bit later. So it's kind of spread out in terms of their arrival, but also in terms of their transitioning out of the house too.
Well, that will be an interesting aspect that we can kind of explore, because you went through that many times then with them leaving at different times. Bob, how old was your first one when they left? Do you remember?
Well, all of our kids left when they graduated from Hopkinton High School to go to college. So they all had the same. They all had the same agenda, really. And their graduation years were 92, 94, 97, and 2002. So to some extent, we did go through this 4 times, as you did once. But I do remember much about it, and they are mostly fond memories, because it seemed to represent what we thought we were all aiming for all along anyway, for them to become independent people and go off to college and get an education of the type and at the place they chose to.
So not only were you adjusting to each of them leaving, but then they had siblings who were kind of adjusting, with the older one going
Right.
first and then the next one. And tell us a little bit about that, Sally. How did things change at home?
Well, the first thing that changed, Jan went off to Penn State, and there was a mad scramble to change bedrooms because somehow it was decided that if you leave home, then your bedroom's up for grab. So everybody changed rooms, and that was okay. But still, you know, Jan had a room when she came back with all of her things in it, so it wasn't like she lost her room at home. They pretty much kept a room through college. And sort of each time one of them left, there was a change around of that nature. They all had, at the point at which they'd gone to college, too, they'd had some time away from home, either visiting with grandparents or camps or whatever. So it wasn't a totally new experience for any of us.
Now, it's interesting you say, though, that the bedrooms, you know, became up for grabs or something like that, because I had talked to a very good friend of mine before my son went off to college, and they had told me, whatever you do, don't change anything at home right away. You know, leave the room alone, leave all the things there, don't be, you know, throwing things out, and, you know, make sure that if I wanted to change anything, I asked him first and that sort of thing. But
oh dear, I didn't get that lesson.
You didn't get that lesson, huh?
Oh well.
So it was all right then. Then you know, the ones that were left home kind of said, "Okay, that room's mine," and they. So you were sort of prepared that, again, it was a college situation. You knew that that time was coming for each of them. Now, did you find yourselves experiencing some, you know, different emotions that caught you off guard? Like I said, being in the grocery store really caught me off guard when I'd get a little teary-eyed. I'd say, "Oh, come on, Mary, you know, it's just food. You're not hungry." Did you have any strange feelings or emotions that you hadn't expected when your first one went off to school?
I missed Jan. I missed her a lot. There was still a lot of activity, so it wasn't. I didn't have a lot of time to miss her, but I did, because she was a sort of a settling influence. And of course, it's always nice to have a daughter around that you can ask, does this outfit look okay, or is my hair all right today? And she would be pretty helpful that way. And Jill was pretty young to be my resource, and the boys, you know, they're hopeless.
Now, Bob, I'm going to ask you. Now, don't give away any too deep, dark secrets here, but did you notice changes in Sally as the kids started growing up and moving away? Did she have moments where she was reflective or teary-eyed, or do you recall?
Pardon me. I really don't remember that, Mary. And I guess as Sally's discussing this, it was kind of a blur. Those years through the middle 90s in many respects. Yes, Jan left and went off to college, and that was always her plan, and she did that, and then that no doubt sealed the plan of the next one and the next one too. I think No, you don't think so?
I feel like they all chose to go to college. It wasn't it wasn't a mandate by any means. Is that what you meant?
No, but I think that there's a certain excitement from the next oldest one at home, hearing about the college experience, and that therefore simply solidified, in this case, his intentions to go off to college. It's true. I do think that going from 4 to 3 to 2 didn't change things in the household all that much. But then when we went from having 2 at home to having only 1 at home, we actually then I think did start to look at each other and say, wow, this is going to be different.
So you had time, I guess, to sort of,
Yeah,
get to the
because-
point where it was going to really be an empty nest, whereas mine was kind of,
That's
just I
right.
had one
Yours
son,
happened
so
all at
yeah,
once,
mine
yeah.
happened all at once.
When
yeah.
Chuck left, that was 1997. So now we have Jill, who is a 7th grader, and it would turn out that we decided one good thing for us and for Jill would be to bring in a foreign exchange student, which we did, and that had sort of mixed results in terms of, especially in terms of Jill's feeling about the whole thing. It turned out that by us bringing in a high school junior from Kazakhstan, who was a delightful young lady and well spoken, in 3 languages and so on. For Jill, she was yet another older sister. Which is,
She wasn't sure she needed one.
right, which wasn't what she had in mind for herself at all.
Maybe she was looking forward to being the oldest and the only one in the house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a case of those best laid plans.
Yeah.
And then we, in that same time frame, we got a dog, as I recall. And so the dog, which we had never had before, became another dependent, if you will, that both Jill and Alia could tend to, as well as Sally and I. And then all of a sudden we had Chuck back home too, so our house was, whereas we thought we were getting down to the bare minimum, we were kind of filled up again. But that's just how things go. So Chuck came home and went to Framingham State for 1 semester, and then he went away again to UMass Amherst, and Alia completed her year. So then we were down to the 4 of us, Sally, Jill, myself, and the dog.
The lesson being there is they can come back too, can't they?
That's right.
That may be a whole nother show, though. Is what
Yes.
happens when you have an empty nest for a while, and then they come back and you have to do that adjusting again. Well, turnabout's fair play. Sally, did you notice any differences in Bob in terms of how he may have expressed his emotions as each of your children went off to college versus how you did, or do you recall any?
So sending them off to these schools in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, and North Carolina, you wonder how are these kids going to manage in the big outdoor, the world outside, and we did a good job because they all kind of managed well, and so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I think Hopkins is a great place to raise kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think my son was 18 months, just under 2 years old when we moved out here, and I feel very fortunate that he was able to grow up here in Hopkinton. It was a great time. So looking back, did you find yourself in any new adventures? Did you have time to maybe explore things other than raising children, new hobbies or vacations that you might not have taken, or?
Well, I think during those years we discovered the kayak, which I'm so thrilled to have discovered. It's my favorite. And the bicycle. We've been able to take Phil McConney's famous bike ride in Tuscany, which is quite lovely, and a couple of kayak trips. So yes, there's free time. There's a flexibility in terms of scheduling because you no longer have to go during February vacation, and you can go in September. The second or third week of September for a vacation is really nice. The kids have now, they're totally, the nest is totally empty. It's just Bob and I and the dog, and that's okay. The house doesn't get so dirty, and the grocery shopping's really simple. And the kids are all moved to interesting places, so we have destinations now, and we've managed to get together with them on a regular basis. So that's made it easier, I think, too, as opposed to seeing them on a less frequent basis.
Do they ever talk about how they felt when they left? Did they have maybe some angst about going off to college and leaving home and wondered how you were doing? Or
I don't remember them ever wondering how we were doing. Do you?
Yeah, well, they've talked about it, and I don't remember exactly what they had to say.
They probably thought we did okay.
Right. I know they were all eager to, to go off to college, and they had chosen their college, and in several cases, this is my experience now, those choices that they had made that they were so assured about, they were suddenly doubting, and once they got there, I came to view that as just another one of the things that's part of this whole process. But however, they did they all continued through college, graduated in approximately 4 years in all cases, and I think all four of them spent at least one summer not at home, and usually staying at their college. So they were committed to sort of establishing their own lives, I guess. That's how I would interpret that, and so they continue to do that because they're all west of the Mississippi, considerably west of the Mississippi in several cases.
now I found that the rules really changed though when they'd come home for a weekend or something. They're used to being off on their own.
Oh, well.
Right? And then they come home for a little while, either for, breaks or a weekend or maybe during the summer, and it's no more saying, hey, you have to be in by a certain time or where are you going, because they've been used to being on their own, right?
That reminds me of that was a difficult part of this transition, I think for all of us. That summer after their senior year in high school, when they've graduated from high school, they're going to college, and they've already started to abide by the college rules, but they're still at home and, in fact, have younger siblings. And
I didn't know college had any rules.
Well,
it seems like it does.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are the rules Sally's referring to.
I'm referring to the total freedom or whatever,
Yeah.
And that was
No
really
parents around, yeah.
that was a challenge. I really would encourage colleges to start accepting kids and starting them in school long about 2 weeks after they graduate. That would ease the tension in the house that they're leaving immensely. But so there was that tension about no, you really are still under the same house rules until you go off to college.
Mm-hmm.
Then coming back, that was a transition. And it depended mostly, in my mind, who's younger, who are we sort of setting the rules for in terms of setting a standard for as the younger. Like Jill was the younger one when she's in junior high school. You still got to keep kind of the same tone in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, when the kids were at home, we had lots of their friends coming through. And they left, and the friends never came.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's another thing you miss. Yes.
I miss sort of
too,
catching
yeah.
up with the friends and,
Yeah.
who's doing what. And all that sort
Having
of
the
thing.
group over
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
how's everybody doing? Yeah.
Of course, now with Facebook, I just joined Facebook, and I find, wow,
Yes.
I have a lot of their friends as friends.
Yes.
So I guess it's
Sally's had the good
Think about
fortune
that.
to be friended by our kids' friends.
That's true. And there's a lot of ways that we can keep in touch nowadays that when we were off at school, our parents couldn't. You can text, you can instant message,
Right.
you can email and all these other things, where when I went off to college, there was none of that. My parents were lucky if they got a phone call once in a while to say, yeah, I'm okay, I'm still alive, that kind of thing. So there are different avenues, at least at this, all these technologies and things. So.
And the other thing that's different now is that with all the cell phones, it used to be you talk to their roommates, because they had one phone in the place, and so you call, and either your kid was there or not there, and you either talk to the kid or the roommate or the answering machine. But now they only have cell phones, so I never kind of get to meet the roommates until I go out to visit them, and so that's kind of a difference.
I'll go back to a couple of things you said, though, that I wanted to highlight, because you talked about getting into kayaking and bicycling and that. At first I found myself working even more hours than I had before, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, this isn't such a good plan. All this free time I have, I shouldn't be just, taking up that void with a lot of working. So I decided to get involved with other things, too. In fact, HCAM was one of them. Went to one of their workshops and started volunteering with HCAM to do, TV work and stuff, which has been a lot of fun. And I ended up retiring that end of the first semester. My son went off to college, and it was great, because now I did have even more free time. But so he was off at school, and I didn't have a job to go to anymore. So it was like, okay, what do I want to do? Which could be a little bit stressful if you're not sure.
Right.
And
that's like two major transitions.
Two major transitions, yeah, if you haven't really prepared for it. But I also find Hopkinton's one of those towns that there's so many things you can get involved with.
Yes.
You can volunteer for a committee, or you can, do volunteer work at your church, or volunteer at HCAM, or, there's all sorts of things to do, no matter if you're a married couple or a single woman or whatever, there's lots to get involved with. So
that's for sure.
Yeah. So I just want to emphasize to people who may be facing this to do a little prep, though. Think about it. It may just come up on you kind of fast, and you just react and do whatever you have to do. But I think it's also a good idea to think about that transition, so you don't find yourself too teary-eyed like I did. I think for the first 2 weeks, I think I went home after work every day and cried. And I said, "Get a grip, Mary. He's only off at college." It was kind of one of those things. But but little things caught me by surprise. Can you think back on any situation about that whole experience that really caught you off guard, or do you kind of just remember it as going through one child after another? You had the 4 and I had the 1, so it might have been a little different.
Well, when they were young and everybody told me that this would go quickly, and I said, yeah, right. Well, in retrospect, it really did go quickly, much faster.
You mean the years getting away from it?
Yeah, they just, you kind of get in on a roll, and it does seem to go fast.
But now, like you say, you have great places to go visit, right? Because they all live in different places. And in fact, Bob, you went on a big bike trip or something not too long ago with one of your...
Oh, yes. My daughter invited me to join her and her husband and another friend on a 450-mile bike trip from Portland, Oregon to Arcata, California, down the Oregon coast. And I'm in effect retired now, and so I said, sure, I have no excuse not to. So that was great fun. It is, they are a lot of fun to visit as they become adults. I'm sure that many parents in our position would say the same thing. We certainly have a different relationship now that they're all young adults, so that's all that's all the good news that's out there. Another thing I kind of remember is my friend Irene Sear reminded me that I had told her this, but I'd had this sense that when they did go away, that was it. They'd be gone forevermore, and family vacations would never be the same. But it turns out that's not exactly true. If you offer an attractive family vacation, they'll find a way to show up and be part of it, whether it's all meeting up somewhere or traveling together somewhere. So we've had many of family vacations of that type since they went away to college. I was completely wrong about that, about them going away and never coming back. They will come back for those kinds of vacations.
Well, and I have to say, because we're just about out of time here, so I'm going to be wrapping up, but I have to say you must have done something very right if they're inviting you out on bike trips and to come visit them. You know, that's a good sign that, you know, you did something right and the transition went well when they left home and you're still friends and seeing them, and that's wonderful. So,
It could have something to do with, both Bob and I did, you know, we went away to college in our growing up, and we also left home at that time. So perhaps part of our reaction to their doing it is that it's the plan that we followed.
yeah, maybe
So
your
it
own
was fairly
experience
similar.
then helps you with
Right.
your children
Right.
and stuff. Yeah.
It's when they do something different that
Yeah.
you got to think twice.
Well, I want to thank you both very much for being my guest today, but I can see that we're just about out of time. So thank you again for talking about your experiences and your feelings. And I want to offer to my audience that I hope if any of you are about to face this empty nest situation soon, or if you've had children that have left recently, I hope you'll explore your feelings. Rejoice in the happy aspects of it, but don't be afraid to acknowledge and to get help with maybe the voids and changes that you'll be going through. And you will have your own unique experience and emotions about an empty nest, but just in
Yes.
case you still think it will be an easy transition, especially all you fathers out there, I invite you to take a look at how many books have been written on the subject. Make sure you're ready for the challenges and the changes so you can make happy memories of the time and avoid any meltdown. Stay well, everyone. And this is your host, Mary Arnott, signing out with Attitude.